Chief Justice of the Federation, Walter Onohe, a no-show at the Code of Conduct Tribunal on Monday. On the international scene, second black box voice recorder recovered from Lion air crash in Indonesia. And in sports, 2018 MPFL kickoff.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The country is ruling today on the constitutionality of the process in which the Chief Justice of the Federation was to be arraigned for alleged violations of the law. The National Judicial Council is on one side, while the federal government is on another. The Chief Justice was a no-show at his arraignment at the Code of Conduct Tribunal in Abuja earlier on Monday. Enandusi Adeyemi reports. We'll get back to that story. Meanwhile, the South-South Governors Forum has described the federal government's decision to arraign Chief Justice Walter Onohe as a setback to the nation's 20-year democratic gains. The governors of the geopolitical region met in Abuja on Sunday and released a statement that the matter should have been sent to the National Judicial Council, which has ample powers under the Constitution to handle this type of case. The forum says dragging the Chief Justice to the Code of Conduct Tribunal is a grave and dangerous escalation in the assaults of the institutions of states, including the National Assembly and the judiciary. Onohe says he had done nothing wrong. The Chief Justice said he thought the declaration forms he submitted in 2016 was enough to cover for the declaration of his assets. Senate President Bukola Saraki has advised the federal government to ensure its actions do not result in chaos and that due process was not compromised. More than 150 volunteer senior advocates are set to defend Onohe at the tribunal. Meanwhile, a coalition of Niger Delta agitators has vowed to shut down Nigeria if the federal government fails to withdraw the charges against Chief Justice Walter Onohe. It warned it would attack those working under the Buhari administration if the government goes ahead with the arraignment. In a statement, the agitators also warned non-indigent oil well owners in the coastal are to be ready to vacate their zone. They accused President Muhammadu Buhari of not wanting to appoint Onohe as the country's chief law officer in the first place. They say that is the reason the president kept Onohe in an acting capacity for many months. The claim on Onohe's South-South origin was the reason for his travails. Now to real politics. 4 Lagos governorship candidates ducked it out on a debate stage on Sunday, putting forth a variety of ideas to run the state. The 4 candidates in the debate were Jimi Agbaje of the People's Democratic Party, Babajide Sanwo-Olu of the All Progressives Congress, Action Democratic Party candidate Babatunde Badamasi, and Owolabi Salis of the Alliance for Democracy. Although they all fielded several different positions on the issues, the candidates all agreed that technology will play a pivotal role in drastically changing the state. On the issue of Lagos traffic nightmare, Badamasi says solution would be found in the use of rail, barges, and in devolution of powers. Jimi Agbaje of the PDP says getting the local government working again, involving the grassroots and planning ahead would solve the gridlock problem. APC candidate Babajide Sanwo-Olu says he would resolve the gridlock problem within his first term if elected. Alliance for Democracy candidate Owolabi Salis said in an effort to decongest Lagos roads, he would revive the train system he claimed had been abandoned for 15 years by the federal government. Now let's get back to the first story. The country is ruling today on the constitutionality of the process in which Chief Justice of the Federation was to be arraigned for alleged violations of the law. The National Judicial Council is on one side, while the federal government is on another. The Chief Justice was a no-show at his arraignment at the Code of Conduct Tribunal in Abuja earlier on Monday. Enandusi Adeyemi reports.
Chief Justice Walter Onnoghen did not show up for his arraignment on Monday morning at the Code of Conduct Tribunal in Abuja. The National Judicial Council, the Nigerian Bar Association, and hundreds of legal luminaries in the country are facing off with the federal government on its decision to arraign the Chief Justice of the Federation, Walter Onnoghen, who is charged with the failure to declare his assets as the law requires. He is also said to have violated the law by allegedly operating foreign currency domiciliary bank accounts. The Nigerian Bar Association has released a statement that such an action would be an assault, intimidation, and desecration of the judiciary. The judicial body questions why the government would hold the Chief Justice before the CCT without first approaching it with the facts it claims to have against him. The body says such an arraignment will be a targeted assault on the judiciary by agents of the Nigerian government and accuses the federal government of rushing the action within 4 days from receiving the petition that triggered the CCT action on Wednesday to quickly drafting the charges within 24 hours. The NJC says it is unprecedented to handle everything within 3 working days from the receipt and processing of the petition to the investigation, preparation of charge, ancillary process, and the arraignment. It calls on the government to stop what it describes as harassment of the judiciary. The Code of Conduct Tribunal has adjourned the trial to January the 22nd, following an agreement by all parties that the charges and summons were improperly served on the Chief Justice. Lucy Adeyemi, ANN News.
From one political extreme to another, as Lagos governorship candidates were debating on Sunday evening, arsonists were striking in Enugu State. People's Democratic Party campaign buses were set on fire and burnt down by unknown arsonists. The party says the buses were raised right after a printing company had just finished branding them for campaign use. Dan Wome, a PDP chieftain, says the 3 buses were completely burned and almost gutted before the State Fire Service arrived at the scene. He asked, quote, "Who is doing this?" end quote. Hopefully they would find the answer. In the same vein, individuals described as political thugs by the People's Democratic Party are said to be responsible for an attack on Senate President Bukola Saraki's Agbaje, a Ilorin family residence over the weekend. The hoodlums are said to have opened fire on Agbaje residents, wounding 11 and destroying at least 50 vehicles at various locations in the area. Something like this happened last Thursday at Agbajiole and Kata area of Ilorin metropolis. 4 PDP members were injured in that attack. Saraki held a press conference in Abuja as a result of the incident and raised an alarm that his and his family lives were threatened. PDP operatives say APC thugs stormed the area and fired gunshots into the air to scare people away. The violence was said to have reached Ajikobi and Omoda area of Ilorin metropolis. Lagos State Police Commissioner Imoheme Edgar has been redeployed to the force headquarters in Abuja. He is now Commissioner of Police in charge of Explosives Ordnance Unit. A new acting police commissioner, Kayode Egbetokun, has been appointed to take over for now. Edgar assumed the office in Lagos in September 2017. His predecessor, Fatai Owosheni, has just retired after 35 years of service. Coming up, African stories, rioting in Zimbabwe over rising fuel prices, and later international, second black box recovered from Lion Air crash in Indonesia. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to stories from across the continent. Burkina Faso's parliament has voted to extend a state of emergency on Friday by 6 months, and several northern provinces where attacks by Islamic militants have surged in recent months, including one that killed 12 persons on Thursday. Burkina Faso had imposed a state of emergency in December after militants killed 10 gendarmes in a single attack. The government said the latest attack was carried out by 36 jihadists on the town of Gasaliki in Soum province near the Malian border. 2 Gasaliki residents told reporters the men opened fire and set fire to shops in town. Many Zimbabweans have taken to the streets to demonstrate against a 150% fuel hike. President Emmerson Mnangagwa had announced over the weekend a sharp, massive fuel price surge in an effort to stem a deepening economic crisis. This move has caused outrage and anger among citizens. Protesters barricaded roads and burned fires in a suburb of Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, on Monday. Commuters were stranded in 2 main cities as angry protesters blocked buses from carrying passengers. The Zimbabwean government has warned members of the public against infringing on the rights of others by blocking roads and forcing work-bound people to return home. The government says those engaging in such acts will be arrested and would face the full extent of the law. Zimbabwe police has been deployed in Harare on Monday to patrol, stop and search citizens after the protest erupted. The head of the Sudanese government's fact-finding committee, Amir Ibrahim, said over the weekend the death toll from protests in Sudan has risen to 24. Anti-government protests broke out across the nation last month over rising food prices and cash shortages. Demonstrators also demanded the president's resignation. Amnesty International has estimated that at least 40 persons have died in the protests. Fighting between CJN and Sudanese rebels at a remote gold mine in northern Chad has left dozens dead. Local and rebel sources said on Sunday the fighting pitting CJN rebels against the Sudanese group close to N'Djamena government happened on Saturday in the Kuri-Bugudi region. Sources said the rebels had crossed over from neighboring Libya aboard dozens of vehicles. A Chadian security source said the attack was in response to a clash in late December against gold palmers belonging to the same ethnic group that left at least 30 gold miners dead. Nokia head of customer marketing and communications in the Middle East and African regions, Joachim Wilmert, said the African continent is on the next great mobile phone innovation this year. Wilmert said mobile subscribers in sub-Saharan Africa rose by 44% in 2017, and smartphone penetration in the same region increased by 75%. He says Africa is poised at the edge of an evolution, ready to show the rest of the world what it can do with innovation and the commitment to improving infrastructure. The Nokia executive says the leap from 2G to 4G in sub-Saharan Africa would happen faster than many expect. Market unit head Central, East and West Africa at Nokia, Daniel Joga, said there were already a number of impressive innovations around 5G in Africa, with some commercial sites in South Africa already rolling out. When we return, international stories. Second black box recovered from Lion air crash in Indonesia, and later sports, 2018 MPFL kickoff.
watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand, that's Palasa phone.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In international news, 15 persons have died in a crash involving a Boeing 707 military cargo plane in the west of Tehran, Iran. A flight engineer survived and was taken to the hospital for treatment. The cargo plane carrying meat from Bishkek had an emergency landing at Faith Airport. The aircraft had caught fire after it skidded off a runway and crashed into a wall separating the airport from a residential neighborhood. Iranian media say 7 bodies from the crash had been recovered. Indonesian Navy divers have recovered the cockpit voice recorder from Lion Air Flight 610. Divers and crew cheered when the device was lifted onto the deck of a ship on Monday morning. The cockpit voice recorder is one of the 2 so-called black boxes. It was buried under 8 meters of mud on the seabed and was found inside the current search area, 500 to 1,000 meters from the crash site. The recovery of the device after 2 months of the crash is a significant breakthrough for investigators trying to piece together the final moment of Flight 610. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to devastate Turkey's economy if it carries out a military offense against Kurdish fighters in Syria. Trump's threat came amid tensions between the United States and Turkey over the fate of Washington's Syria-Kurdish allies in the fight against Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, after Trump announced he plans to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria. Ankara had condemned Washington for a long time for its military relationship with the Kurdish People's Protection Units, its main ally in the war against ISIL in Syria for several years. Turkey considers the YPG and its political wing, the Kurdish Democratic Union Party, as terrorist groups with ties to the banned Kurdistan Workers' Party in Turkey. The U.S. government partial shutdown is making many official websites harder to access and leaving users more vulnerable. Affected websites include the U.S. Department of Justice, the Court of Appeals, and NASA. President Trump made good on his threats to shut down the government if Congress failed to approve his request for $5.5 billion to build a wall along U.S. border with Mexico. There has been an impasse between Trump and the Democratic House. A border wall was one central promise during Trump's campaign in 2016, but he said at the time that Mexico would pay for the wall. One of the side effects of the situation is the government security certificates for websites are not being renewed because the departments that would handle them are shut down. Netcraft says more than 80 security certificates used by government websites have expired. The partial shutdown has left many government agencies like national parks closed. 800,000 government workers have not been paid their salaries, causing serious problems for families who are facing mortgage payments, food purchases, and medical treatments. 7 persons have died in road accidents across the Midwestern United States on Sunday as a result of a winter blizzard. The snowstorm had also forced a ground stop at Dulles Airport and the cancellation of hundreds of flights. Millions of Americans in 10 states and Washington, D.C. were under winter storm warnings on Sunday. More than 1,000 flights were cancelled and 3,000 departures delayed in and out of U.S. airports. 4 persons were killed in Missouri and 3 died in Kansas roadway accidents. And later, sports, 2018 MPFL season kickoff.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left. Yes. You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sports, the 2018-2019 Nigeria Professional Football League season kicked off on Sunday across 6 league venues with 3 home victories, 1 away and 2 draws already. Ayimba kicked off their campaign with a 2-0 home win over MFM in Aba. Kwara United drew 1-1 at home with Sunshine Stars. In another match, Nasarawa United beat Abia Warriors 1-0 in Lafia. 49-year-old South Africa football former star Philemon Masinga has died of cancer in a Johannesburg hospital. Retired South Africa captain Lucas Radebe, who played with Masinga at Leeds United in the 90s, says the country has lost a great legend. He said Masinga was a big hit with the team and the players and was a great inspiration to him. South African Football Association President Danny Jordan says the country has lost a giant in the game. A tweet from former teammate Noah Willen says Masinga was not just a friend and strike partner, but one of the nicest, kindest guys he would ever meet. Masinga scored the goal, the beat Brazzaville 1-0 in Soweto and took Bafana Bafana to the 1998 World Cup in France. May he have eternal rest. And that is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit the website annafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.